Hi everybody, it's Honest John again. Now, as many of you know, there have been protests going on in Hong Kong for weeks. They started because there was a bill in Hong Kong's Congress, or Parliament, which would have allowed political activists in Hong Kong to be transported to mainland China to be tried in their courts. Chinese courts are much less independent than the ones in Hong Kong. And they are much less fair to defendants, too. But those protests have expanded to include China's interference in Hong Kong's politics. When Hong Kong was handed over to China by the British, it was under an agreement that was called One Country, Two Systems, which was supposed to guarantee Hong Kong's autonomy. But the Chinese government really hated that idea and has been eroding that autonomy for quite some time now. It even dictates who can run for office on the island of Hong Kong, which is a clear violation of that agreement. Now, usually, the United States would be speaking up publicly in favor of the people in situations like this. But Donald Trump has always sided with dictators against the rights of the people. We've seen him praise Kim Jong-un for murdering his people, and Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines for murdering his people. And even back as far as 1989, after the Tiananmen Square massacre, Trump praised the Chinese for murdering the people there. It's another example of his moral deficiency and unfitness to be president. But that's not what this video is about. There are people in Hong Kong who are either on vacation or who went there for business purposes, who got there before the protests started, and who have been stranded there because the protesters took over the airport. The airport has reopened, but getting people in and out of Hong Kong is still not an easy matter, as protesters often blockade the routes to the airport even though they're no longer occupying the airport itself. And that leads me to a question that applies not just to the Hong Kong protests, but to protests in general. Now, protests are meant to be disruptive. That's what they do in order to call attention to the cause that they are about. And frequently, main roads and even highways are blocked by protesters, which is really inconvenient for people who are commuting, and can also be dangerous because it makes it difficult for emergency vehicles to respond to crises. So, what are the ethics of protests? Blocking off roads and highways, like I said, it calls attention to something, but people might actually die because they don't get to a hospital, or because a fire starts and the fire people can't get to the location. It seems to me that protesters, if they're going to do something like that, that they should coordinate with the local governments in order to make sure that there are alternate routes available for traffic and especially for emergency vehicles. These are not easy questions, but they are questions that protesters and activists need to deal with as they plan their actions. Thanks for listening. Well, I want to thank you all for watching my videos. But there are certain changes that Google has made to YouTube, which, since I'm a smaller channel, means that I can't monetize my videos. So I found places where I can. So instead of watching my videos here on YouTube, I'd appreciate it if you go either to Patreon or to Top Buzz. They let me monetize videos and I don't even have to put commercials on. So, if you want to become a patron on Patreon, That's fine. If you don't, you can still watch the videos there. I've just kind of given up on YouTube. YouTube is just a place that I use so that I can put my videos in other places. So, Patreon, Top Buzz, the links are in the description box. Thanks a lot.